Now, may I call upon Mr. Hudhaifah Zahid to speak on his paper entitled Current Assets, Sweet Liquid Economic Nectar. Mr. Hudhaifah is a cognitive system graduate from the University of British Columbia, Canada, driven by a vision for a fairer financial system. He is well versed in securities regulations with expertise in capital markets and Islamic finance. And he is now the CEO, founder and the CEO of Economy, a fintech company focused on fixed fee, interest-free auto finance funded via tokenization of assets for accredited investors. Welcome, Mr. Hudhaifah. Go ahead, please, and present your paper.
Awesome. Thank you. I saw a hand up earlier, but I'm assuming we can have those questions for later. I expect my presentation will be shorter than most. And thank you for having me in
Mr.
contact.
Hudhaifah, yeah, thank you.
All right, we have it up here. So it's been a very insightful conference hearing hearing the problems that people are addressing from the micro to the macro and towards the UN Sustainable Development Goals. My personal interest has mostly been um, in a in a bu- in a macroeconomic perspective, but really how that is achieved from a microeconomic level, and specifically in the realm of inequality and wealth inequality. Uh, the the work of Thomas Piketty actually in 2016 in his book Capital in the 21st Century identified that there is a growing trend in the inequality and gap in wealth amongst society. And he identified that it was due to the return on capital increasing at an exponential rate faster than the economic growth around it, which it's the basic instinct of anyone who wants to be rich to grow wealth at least at the pace with the rest of the economy. The wealthy have better leverage and easier access to capital, and thus the ability to take greater risks. As such, wealth inequality in itself is not a bad thing, and can be expected to always lead economic growth and fuel more economic growth. However, an increasing gap over time towards extremes is unsustainable and can lead to social stratification, stifle economic mobility, and stand against the achievement of UN social development goals. And moreover, it indicates that there is a systemic inefficiency in our economies that is allowing for this injustice. And economists have debated this topic at large, especially after Thomas Piketty's work. And what I've seen is that they've invited intervention. They've mostly been focused on addressing the symptoms. And Piketty himself advocated for a wealth tax to address the wealth inequality that he was seeing, while Stiglitz address while Stiglitz argued that addressing income inequalities first will lead to a solution for wealth inequality. They both and both approaches, and even taxation that is used within Canada and the USA or abroad are inspired by their work, and yet uh, they have inefficiencies, pros and cons. So today I'll mainly focus on, really discussing discussing quickly the pros and cons of each taxation system and proposing an almost merger of the two in a new system. And I also, in recognition of the fact that taxation addresses the symptom and not the cause, just start the discussion on what the root cause is and why I decided to leave academia for building a startup instead. So wealth tax is, it would definitely solve the problem by tackling wealth distribution very aggressively. It would discourage hoarding and enhance competitiveness and productivity to some extent, but it's really impossible to implement. Federal Constitutional Court of Germany found that wealth taxes would need to be confiscatory in order to bring about any real redistribution. And nobody wants their wealth just taken away. We've seen that with economic systems that don't give us the freedom that the human nature desires. And it does shine best in the absence of any other tax, but it cannot sustainably replace them. And capital flight is always a problem, with many tax havens around the world welcoming wealthy individuals with their assets. Now, a global wealth tax where all nations agreed upon something would actually work. Then nobody can run anywhere. However, the globe and the world and the international community is shaped by individuals such as ourselves and wealthy people as well. And despite being a good solution, the implementation and practicality of it is not great. So we come towards something like progressive income tax, which is very common in Canada, and which aims to redistribute income from the rich to the poor. And many of you may have thoughts or controversies around, excuse me, around Trudeau's recent announcement for a 66% capital gains tax. This is just part of the progressive income tax application towards redistribution. And while so Stiglitz's solution it offers that income tax is the better way to achieve this, as he does not see that the return on capital being greater than the growth rate as a primary driver of inequality. And the So in like an economy of only workers and managers, where the owners are rich and where the managers are rich and the workers are poor, if the workers and managers' salaries increased at an equal rate, the share of wealth will remain the same. To close the gap between the rich and the poor, the manager's salary increases need to be dampened, redistributed to boost the rate of increase in the workers' wages. And progressive income tax would produce that result. That's the idea for a progressive income tax. However, it's also impractical because the compensation tends to reflect productivity and value in the economy and demand and supply. So it's hard to redistribute very efficiently, and such a tax usually introduces a lot of inefficiencies in government redistribution.
Mr. Hudhaifah Zahid, if
Yes.
I can intervene,
Mhm.
please, what is the key issue? What is the key problem in the next present system, and what you are going to propose an alternative? If you can please focus on that one, then we can wrap up the session for now, because we are running out of time, as you know. Thank you so much.
So the key problem that's been identified is wealth inequality increasing at an explosive rate, and the solutions proposed being wealth tax, progressive income tax, or even progressive sales tax. All of them have inefficiencies and may either be difficult to implement or not very uh, effective in their implementation. And a merger of the two comes from uh, a proposal which is in current assets tax. The difficulty with wealth tax being that a lot of wealth is illiquid in homes, real estate, and businesses, and cannot be tapped into in order to extract the tax. Income is much easier to extract tax from. However, it impacts consumption and spending and economic growth in an inefficient manner. So current assets, which is liquid wealth, money that people are keeping aside, cash or easily convertible, is a great place to actually implement a wealth tax in this with the efficiency of an income tax and really satisfy both Mr. Stiglitz and Mr. Piketty. And it's inspired by, some of our traditions from zakat and financial assets tax or negative interest rates. And it would be really I wish to further the work here in modeling how that would impact our society, whether it's on a city level and then grow that up to a provincial or state level. Personally, my business is more focused on another area, which is the root cause of perhaps inequality instead of um, addressing just the symptoms, and that is a discussion around the actual implication of interest rates and how they impact return on capital versus productive growth in the economy. But we can leave that for another time. And thank you for having me on this.
Thank you so much to shortening down and for your very important and live presentation. Any comment, any question for the presenter, please?
Just I have a question for Hudhaifah. Is this practice is implemented in Canadian taxation or not yet, or about to, or not at all in future?
Progressive taxation is implemented, and with all its inefficiencies and capital flight to the United States, we're losing a lot of dollars there. And so current assets tax, which I'm proposing, though, is completely new, not in any form of implementation yet.
Okay, thank you.